Hello, beautiful alchemist. Welcome to Reiki Radio. I am your host, Yolanda, and today we have part three with Ifetayo White, who I lovingly refer to as Mother Ifetayo, just out of respect. And I hope that you enjoyed the first two conversations today. She continues giving us some nuggets of wisdom. One is a very important lesson for all of us about setting healthy boundaries. And she also talks to us about the importance of setting ourselves up to be receptive of joy. So, more wisdom, more learnings, more teachings from Mother Ifetayo, but she also shares with us about a book, an anthology that she has been working on for the last couple of years. And I was fortunate enough to be one of the people invited to contribute. So we will talk a bit about that and the importance of really honoring the diversity within the Reiki community and how we can all start to hear and see and honor each other from that lens of compassion and love even more. She has a beautiful, beautiful way of helping us to understand this on a deeper level. And yeah, there's just a lot we're going to learn today. Again, if you want to know more about Mother Ifetayo, Ifetayo White, and her work, be sure to visit her website, ifetayowhite.co. That's .co. And if you want to join her for her womb healing retreat online tomorrow, be sure to register for that event because it is likely to sell out. The link to register to join is down in the show description. It is an invitation to deeply connect with yourself, to rest. It is beautiful. So, yeah, I will leave it at that and I will see you on the other side. Our last hour with Mother Ifetayo. It has been incredible. And I'm just so thankful, one, that you said yes, because it is. I mean, like, listen, asking someone to sit with you for 3 hours, life is
Uh,
busy, but I'm just thankful that so many people listening get this dose of you and your
Thank
wisdom.
you.
So thank you. So where we left off, we were joking about how you did give your number, but you said, no, do not call me, only text me. And you gave us all a really quick lesson on establishing healthy boundaries. And the thing that was so funny about it is because you said it so matter of fact, and you were like, and there are no apologies for this. Like, no,
No, this is
I am not. So, could you talk to us a little bit about this? Have you always been a person who has had like these very clear boundaries, or is this something that you've developed through your practice, through your work?
a developed, sweetheart. It's
Yeah.
been a development because I have a really open womb space. I'm a really open womb space,
Yeah.
mother energy, okay, which I've had to learn to modulate over these years of practice because energy work is energy work.
Right.
And we know how that can be. So becoming more and more discerning and more knowing of myself and my needs. I do I am an introvert. Now that's surprising to a lot of people. I'm off the chart introvert, really. I'm not even
Really?
just close to the middle. I'm really over there, which means I need a lot of solitude and quiet to really bring myself into my wholeness. I don't thrive really off of the energies of people. I love people, love and love connection, but and I can get drained. So I've had this dance and this balance for myself of connecting deeply and often and openly
Mhm.
to creating boundaries that where I have to be firm about the no and really have that voice and that energy like this is no.
Right.
And I'm really serious about that. And even in, from um I have a really pretty healthy Reiki practice here. I have and I've learned and I've cut back because um, I would have days where I didn't take a day off, or it wasn't enough days off for me and the what I need. So this has all been a learning. It's been a great learning for me and a great practicing for me, in and a great practicing of the precept of just for today, I will show compassion to myself and
Mm,
all others. And that has also held me in my learning that I can say, this far and no farther. Like,
right.
I'm open to you. I love you.
Yes.
Here's my phone number. I ain't got but one phone, but you will not call me and be talking to me. No, you can text me. Yeah, I'm serious, Yolanda, and I swear there have been people, I can tell you many a story. And yeah. So, and then I had, okay. So that part that I've had to learn, because you guys are more business than I grew up in. I'm another generation. So a lot of this is like, y'all all come kind of stuff, because I'm Southern and it's all that. But then you have to learn, if you're a businesswoman and you have a practice, there are boundaries you have to have.
Right.
And if you want to have a life,
Yes.
so, I had to learn to say to some people, who would be in touch with me and say, can I talk to you about da 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 and da 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 da? And I was like, sweetheart, I do have a mentoring program. Would you like to make an appointment? Well, it took me a long time to get to that, because
Yes.
I would be on the phone listening, and then you want to give some input, but I'm like, this is work. This is not in the I enjoy my work, but this is not feeding me in the way of friendship or
Right.
So it's been a lot of learning. As I said earlier, I am an experiential learner. My life teaches me. So here I am, feeling really strong and really comfortable and really grateful, and joyfully saying, no,
Yeah,
not
but
to,
that's the part. That's the part is that your no is joyful.
yeah,
And I hope people really hear this because not only are you very clear and okay with saying no, and here's my boundary, but you still laugh about it. Like there's still this
yes,
joyfulness, even though you're very, very serious,
yes, I am.
there's a joyfulness. And I want to point out something else that you shared because I think it's important for everyone to hear as well. But something you just said, that boundary of when we do this work, and then everyone may feel like at any time of day, I can call you and you're going to be the space holder for me. And I don't think a lot of people consider that we have times where we have to unplug too. So I think that what you just said was so important for many of us to hear, that it's okay to say, for that kind of conversation, book a session.
Yes,
Outside of that, just let me befriend, let me unplug, let me not do that.
yes,
Right. But the other thing you shared that was so incredible around this, having these healthy boundaries, you were sharing about how anyone watching this video will see, no one will look at you and think whatever we think 80 is. Nobody, I mean, you are just so vibrant, is the word that comes to mind. But you said it's important for you that every day you live in your joy and that you do things that make you happy. Like that is the goal, that is the intent, that is what you do. And you have a hard boundary around that. Like, I
oh,
am going to
yes,
do what gives me joy. Could
yes.
you talk a little bit about that and what that looks like? Like, I know you walk on the beach and these kinds of things, but yeah, could you share with us? Inspire us.
Oh, well, first of all, you got to figure out what brings you joy,
Yeah.
um, and it's a heart thing for me. It's what is my heart asking of me, not my head, not because somebody else is doing this and that somebody else says, "Oh, this is the thing to do now." It is, where's my heart guiding me? What is it that will really um make me smile and
Yeah.
make my heart smile? And uh and make my womb space smile. Uh, yeah, because this is vibrational. This is how I'm feeling. And this contributes to my wellness.
Yes.
Joy contributes to my wellness. So I've always been a person, a seeker. I've always been curious. I've always been an experimenter. So I was always, finding those things that turned me on, that made me excited. And that's sometimes would be joy filled, and sometimes they will just be it's not necessary because it's exciting that it's joy filled.
Right.
Okay. But I learned that the vibration of joy, and I learned what that vibration does for me. And
Yeah.
I encourage everyone to find those spaces. I love the earth. I love gardening. I love growing things. And that's been since I was a little girl.
Oh,
That has always brought me joy, being outside, being in the dirt. My mother would say, "Why do you love to be in the dirt so much?" Because I come from a family in DC that they were like, the less the less dirt, the better, But
yeah.
I was always in the dirt, making mud pies and putting seeds in the ground. That still brings me joy. Still brings me joy. And anyone who comes to my home, I have plants galore that thrive because that brings me joy to take care of them. And
Wow.
so I have many, many things in my life, Yolanda, that connecting with people who I have a heart connection with, like with you, who we've never met in person, but there
Right.
is such a deep heart connection.
Yeah.
Um, with Franz, with others in the Reiki world, and other parts of my life, that brings me joy. And knowing that, though, I know that there's only so much of that I can do before I become depleted
Right.
because of the way that I'm made up, because I'm energy sensitive, because I'm an empath, because I'm um, introvert. I know what else I need to do
Mhm.
so that I can be in joy. You know how sometimes you just look forward to being with a person or certain people, but you hadn't taken care of yourself up to that point. You hadn't made enough time for yourself so that actually when you are with that person or those people, you are not um, not experiencing as much joy as you could have had you prepared yourself for that receiving. So
Oh,
this is another part of growing in wisdom and growing in discernment about who you are and what you need so that you can be present for the joy. Um,
that right there is such I'm like, I had to write that down. Every time I'm looking down, I'm taking notes of what you're saying.
yes,
Okay. So, like, yes. So I did write down you saying joy contributes to your wellness, but also make time for ourselves so we can enjoy being with others.
yes.
Oh, that's deep.
And so that we can receive the
Yes.
joy when the opportunities for joy arise.
Yeah.
One experience, I'm gonna, and I hope my newly found sister Royce doesn't mind me sharing this, but because we haven't known each other long, she's a new sister that I just discovered. At any rate, we love each other dearly, and she doesn't know some parts about myself, and I love connecting with her and talking with her. Well, about a month ago, I was about and I was going to bed. It was about 9 o'clock because I go to bed early because I get up early. And the phone is ringing. I have never answered the phone at 9 o'clock. What? Unless somebody's having a baby or it's my children or grandchildren. So I looked at the phone and I had to make a choice. And I said to myself while the phone was ringing, I love you so much, Royce. I would just love talking to you, but I can't do it tonight. She is a night person, but she didn't know
Right.
I will not answer the phone. I'm going to look at the phone and say, bless your heart. So, I do. I will like, bless your heart, and leave me a message. And so I texted her the next morning and I said, you can call me at 6 o'clock in the morning any day
Yeah.
or seven. But that's I'm prepared to be enjoyed with you then. If I had known you were going to call me at 9, I might have taken a nap. I might have gotten myself ready, but it was no way after a full day
Yeah.
that I knew that I could even have 2 minutes of a conversation. So anyhow, that's just an example for me of being ready for to be enjoyed, being ready
Yeah.
to receive joy, knowing that you might have to say no for in some experiences that could be joyful, but you won't be ready to receive it.
Yeah, but
This is
that's
all the
I mean,
learning.
it sounds so simple. This goes back to, you guiding us to just deep breathe for a moment and it being like, something incredibly helpful for my little cousin, right?
Yeah,
As simple as what you're saying sounds, it's so profound, really. I mean, I don't think I've ever heard anyone say it in that way. Make sure you're prepared to be in the joy. Take the time to nurture you so you can receive joyful moments, so you can enjoy the exchanges. I mean, you
absolutely.
just changed something in my life right now, Mother Ifetayo. You did.
Well, let me give you one other example. This because
Okay.
almost every morning I go to the beach and walk and
Yes.
pray and do Reiki for people, send Reiki, share Reiki. I don't send it, but that's my morning part of my day of joy. I love it.
Hmm.
And I receive so much beauty and birds. It's just beautiful. And of course, so I have folks who come here, individuals who I teach or retreat, and everybody wants to go to the beach with me. Well, so you might know what I'm getting ready to say, but
Yeah.
um, I am discerning about whether this is going to be joyful or not, this
Right.
beach walk. And I have said more often than you can imagine, you're welcome to come to the beach with me, but we won't be chit-chatting. We
Right.
won't be talking because it doesn't feed me. I mean, and not that I don't love this person or want to share experiences, but I know for myself, someone talking to me, just inputting, and while I'm in this joyful, sacred space, it's not going to be joyful.
Right.
And why not set myself up to have a joyful experience by just communicating to a person that this is what I'm going to need?
Yeah.
I'm not going to say for my joy, but I know that this is what I'm going to need. You're welcome to come with me, but it's going to be a different experience than what you might think it's going to be.
Right. Well, I love it because I mean, even in you saying that, and again, everything you say, this is interesting. This is like an art I think you have down. There's something with how you say things where you can tell you mean it and you're serious, but
Yes,
you still are able to say it with a smile and in kindness.
yes,
And I think sometimes people struggle with a no because they are like, is it going to be harsh?
yes.
And yet you're saying no, and it's so pleasant. You know,
And I can laugh like now at the same time with the
yeah,
no. I'm saying no, and I'm laughing because
yeah,
it's tickling me. It's a tickle. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. And it gives the person the option. So that's, I think, the other important piece of the puzzle. If they understand, like, no, I want to go talk, well, then they probably need to go find another friend for the
That's
time that you're on the beach.
or they can take my pass because this is a state park beach. They can take my pass and take themselves when they want to.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But
We
yeah,
all have options.
we have we have choice.
Yeah.
That's another beautiful lesson in life. We are given the power of choice.
Yes.
So this is how I exercise my powers of choice by not being a victim, by learning what I need and not feeling victimized by other people's choices and needs.
Right.
And then being very easeful and peaceful and joyful in communicating my choice.
Yeah. Listen, you just
Doesn't
taught
have
us all
anything.
today. We're all going to be going through our day. No, bless your heart.
Bless your heart. And there's some folks, and I'm going to say Franz because I love him so much and he doesn't
Yeah.
mind. He is an extrovert.
Yes.
There are some people who thrive in the whole, and that is a beautiful way of being. It is not me.
Right.
And, so to get clear on how we show up and how we dance
Hmm.
in our interactions and in the world, it can be joyful
Right.
being in awareness and making your choices. And
Yes.
I love that. I know I left Franz dancing up in Myrtle Beach when he came last year for a Reiki retreat. Shoot, I had to go home and go to bed. And Franz was still partying hardy at the place that we went to for dinner.
Yeah.
And they know me now. That
Yes.
that all the group knows Ifetayo is going to go to bed.
Yeah. It's
And
so
going to
funny
bed, it's
because
going
we're
to
the
bed is
same.
it's for me to regroup, for me to have the solitude. So
Yeah.
it's sort of like go to bed. That's for a catchphrase for me that I've got to be alone now.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's so interesting because I think listening to us and our laughing and just
Yeah.
the way we are showing up together, I
Yes.
think it would probably be strange to people to imagine that both, because I'm very much the same way. Like I need my
Yes.
alone time and
I
I
bet.
totally retreat and I just
Yes.
no.
Right, exactly.
Yes. And Franz, yes, he is like, I always say he's like a living elf. I was like, if you've never met him,
I know.
he is going to jump over you, do cartwheels,
Right.
backflips, dance. And
And
it's
one of
amazing. Yeah,
it's
it's
amazing.
amazing. But you're not going to get that from me. Like,
No,
no,
I
no, no.
mean, no, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. But it is, I mean, and I never
Yeah.
really thought about it. It is in those spaces of like wombing for myself, being by myself,
Yes.
that I can show up
Yes.
and exchange and like I'm fully present, I'm fully here and I'm ready to
Yes.
go. But if that were nonstop, no, I would
No.
not be able to sustain that.
No, no, because it's not how you are made up. It's not
Right.
your makeup. And also, I think what you just brought up about the wombing,
Yes.
Yolanda, I think we introverts have a lot to teach now, as we are shifting to the feminine way and to the rest way of being because it's natural for us.
Right.
It's natural. And everybody does not have to become an introvert, but we have a way of introducing you into a space of rest, encouraging you to rest, encouraging you to have solitude and, regroup and go within. That's
Yeah.
more natural to us. So we are more natural teachers, I feel,
Mhm.
in this way
Yeah.
that we are embarking on.
Yeah. And I think it's important for us to all remember too, there's balance in all things. And we've been,
Yes.
so conditioned in our society. It's like a badge of honor to say, I'm exhausted. I'm so
Right.
busy, you know?
Yes.
But it's like, but listen, you are taking time off of the lifetime.
Right.
You
That's
better rest. You better time out. Yeah.
yeah.
So I
Absolutely.
want to make sure to bring up something very important that you have called people together to create. And as I mentioned in our last conversation, one thing about you, I'm sure we've highlighted, you are a nurturer of community, but you're also very good at expanding community, welcoming people and
Mhm.
inviting people in to come together. And you decided to work on a book, an anthology to highlight voices of people, practitioners. And thank you for inviting me to be a part of that. But I was thinking about the importance of books and voices. And the funny thing is, in our first hour of conversation, you mentioned the book Rest is Resistance. In
Yes.
our second conversation, you mentioned the book about My Body, My Choice. And I
Yes.
just bring that up to say how impactful it is for us that people share their voices through the medium of books.
Yes. And
So
we both
you had this idea. So could you tell everyone about this?
yeah. And actually, Yolanda was one of the inspirations. Yolanda and Natalie Jasper, who is our Reiki sister in New York, both of you said to me years ago when I met you both in the same year, and both had I have been interviewed with both of you.
Yes.
You and in our private conversations, you both said to me or gave me the seed of um, bringing the stories and bringing the voices of Reiki folk who not everyone knows to everyone else.
Yes.
You both said it in your own ways. You Ifetayo, but because I've lived in a Reiki world since the 80s and have been teaching since the 90s and know so many Reiki folks, but and Reiki masters and teachers who have also been working and teaching for such a long time, who, whose voices and whose presence are just not known.
Right.
So it was important for me, and I'm going to say this as it is because it was, I think, a conversation with Yolanda first, that the first inspiration was to bring forth an anthology of origin stories of Black and Brown Reiki people. And then, I mean, that was my first inspiration because, look at me and like, yeah. And I am aware of the history of our presence in the Reiki world. And then I became inspired through that because I am a universalist and I'm a oneness person. But so the expansion inside of me happened to invite other Reiki voices into the space of the very Southern, really deep white Southern voice of Reiki masters who would know, who would expect?
Yeah.
You hear them speak and you're like, what? And so those voices came in, and the voices of gender identified folks. My friend who is a woman rabbi, Reiki master. So all of the folks in my bigger Reiki world
Yes.
community, their voices became important for me to share
Wow.
also.
Yes.
Um, the shamanic Reiki voice, the 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 Christian Reiki minister voice, just
The
all of these folks are in
diversity.
my world. And then one thing Natalie has said to me when we were talking about this book or when I shared it, and she was surprised at the number of African American male Reiki masters that are in my world. And she was like, there's Black Reiki men masters? And I was
Right.
like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah. But where do you see them? And where do you hear their voices?
Well, I
So
have
for
to say
me,
this. There's
yeah,
something that you said that just struck me when you
yeah,
said, I know the history of our presence in the Reiki world. Let me tell you why that's so striking to me. Because when I first started practicing, I was like, are there any Black people practicing in the Reiki world?
yeah,
Honestly, because
right,
in the bigger, like what's more visible
right.
and the teachers and everything that are well known in the Reiki community, it's primarily not people of color,
Yes.
especially back, years ago.
Oh, yeah.
And so it was a thing for me that I was like, oh, I'm going to take all these classes, I'm going to do all this stuff, and I'm going to make it available and affordable and accessible because back then I thought, well, maybe part of it is because a lot of these different classes, not just Reiki, everything within the
Yes.
realm of
Yeah.
spirituality
Yeah.
was so expensive and
Yeah.
maybe it's just not accessible. I don't know what's going on. So then when I met the group of women in Florida who I
Yes.
connected you with, my
Yes.
mind was blown when they
Yeah.
reached out to me. I was like, wait, you all exist? And
Yes.
then I meet you and I was like, wait, what a minute, what's going on? And then all of a sudden, I started having these connections with all different people of color that were also, like you said, part of this community. But I was like, where have you been?
Yes.
So it's beautiful because even hearing what you're saying, like the voices of those people in the South and the
Yeah.
rabbi and someone connected to Christianity, whatever it is, it just shows this great diversity
Yes.
within the Reiki community that, yeah, a lot of people would have no idea exists.
Exactly. Absolutely. And that's my intention. That was
Mhm.
from my heart
Right.
intention. And as I said, you and Natalie really were an impetus for me to go there.
Right.
And I think I might have shared with you in one of those interviews, and maybe this is why we had the conversation that my friend Gwendolyn Mitchell, who lives now in California, was a part of my community in DC, a TM meditator, and she was the first Black Reiki master teacher in the country.
Wow.
And this was in the 80s, and she and Phyllis were very good friends. And, you know, she belonged to the Reiki Alliance and the whole thing, very
Yeah.
traditional. And so her story is also, she contributed her story to the book also, which I thought was very important for us to hear from her voice, you
Yes.
know. Um, I I don't even have the words. I'm sitting here to find the words and I don't because again, I feel as though, and you know, Yolanda, when we started this book, but there's a timing piece that I really had I didn't have an awareness of that this is the time. This
Right.
is the time. There's something about now that is the time. And there was one more Reiki voice that needed to come through, which she has, of the women you just shared. She came from that, has come from that community who I didn't know. She has a whole story of her own that is exquisite. And
Yes.
I just had to say to her, I need to have your story. She's the 22nd voice now.
Oh,
We had
wow.
21, and now we have a master number 22 voices in this anthology. So
That
I
is
again the
incredible.
blessing and the blessing that is going to um, um, pulsate in the world, I feel, because of the sharing of these voices.
Yeah.
And one of the things I was really strong with the editor about it, the publisher, really, because the publisher asked me if they wanted me to do a lot of editing on this book. And one of the things I said to this publisher is, I want the tone of each story to stay the same. I don't want a book edited so that everybody sounds alike.
Right.
And, you know, that vibration, you know what I mean.
Yes.
I wanted each individual energy to come through the story. So this publisher was very in agreement with me with that. So I'm endeared to them because they can understand what I'm speaking of and the importance of that energy of those stories to be present.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, it's incredible hearing this. I mean, I knew obviously because you we had conversations, but that was a few years ago.
Yeah, I was.
And so even to hear it again now is just so inspiring because being a part of the Reiki community, I think to some degree everyone knows it has to be diverse because it's
Yes,
practiced globally. Like we know
absolutely.
it's
Yes.
practiced all over the world, so how could it not be?
Right.
But there are still people practicing in places wondering, like, are there people that look like me that practice? Are there
Yes.
people that share my beliefs that practice this? Like, what? So, again, to make it more visible, the
Yeah.
diversity, not just we know it, but we don't see it, but
Yes.
to make it more visible is, it just is incredible. I cannot wait
I
to
mean,
read all of the
even
stories.
us talking about this at this time in 2025, Yolanda, when I was first introduced to Reiki, I'm going to say probably at least by 85. It could have been 83 or 84.
Hmm.
And for me, I came from a Black Reiki community in the 80s. This was, I mean, the first Reiki master in DC uh, was a woman of Greek descent. She found her way to our community, and she was the first Reiki master in DC. And she taught this whole group of African American folks who resonated with the practice. And so but these were my people, these were my friends, and this was my community. So we all looked alike.
Right.
We were all African American practitioners and and those receiving. So it's interesting coming forward because that's what I was used to,
Right.
you know, um, to I was aware of the diversity going in the other direction of Reiki because my lineage was less.
Yeah.
But my experiences had been in this particular community until after that, when I moved to New Mexico in the early 90s, and then I was a part of a bigger, more diverse Reiki community. But so I'm coming from another direction, really, in
Right.
my own history, and but honoring all practitioners, all of the lineages, all of the folks in the oneness of the
Yeah.
practice and of life, and honoring that there's more than one story and more than one way that folks found themselves in this practice of
Can
this.
we talk a little bit about this? Because this is another thing I think a lot of people misunderstand. And I think that you and I can have a conversation about it where
Yes,
it's very understandable, right?
yes,
So I think it goes without saying that you and I both, and I know this to be true of you too, both of us embrace diversity. And let me
yes.
tell you,
Oh
I
yes,
love that
oh
in
yes,
my community and people who come to classes with me, I love the diversity. I
yes,
love that,
oh yes,
yes, the people are white, black, Latin,
yes,
Asian, whatever.
yes,
We both embrace diversity.
yes,
However, we also know as people of color, it is very common that sometimes we also have to create healing spaces that feel like safe spaces, unfortunately, because of what goes on in the world. And
yes.
so a lot of people don't understand. They almost look at it as like, why would you separate yourself from? So I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about that. Again, we embrace diversity. That's not a question. But could you talk a bit about the importance where people will also have these safe spaces for healing and why the visibility of diversity matters so much that people see, like, oh, I'm welcome to this space because I see others that look like me there. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, I can, Yolanda, because it's a historical context also,
Right.
very much so in the United States of America, and we are part of a bigger Reiki world beyond the United States.
Right.
But when you are a citizen of this country, there is history that travels with you, regardless of whatever race or culture you are in.
Hmm.
And a big part of this history had to do with, I'm going to say, uh, uh, white people and Black people. Okay,
Yeah.
that's a big part of this history of this country. So um, everybody is growing in and coming along through the generations, through the time periods, through the time frames, and have either become intimate with whatever has been carried in them in their cellular memory and in their life experiences, regardless of whether you are white or Black or Asian or brown.
Right.
We all have had experiences in this country. So there has been a setup in some ways of, and it's again a historical perspective, but it is very real, where if a person who is not looking like the majority of the people in the room, and in the healing world, in the holistic world, the majority of the people in the room are going to be white. That's
Hmm.
just the way that has been in this country.
Right.
So if a person of color shows up in that room everyone in that room has brought with them the experiences and the memories from their generation or their ancestors in that room.
Right.
It is just not inseparable. Okay. So, and particularly if we're talking about energy work and we're talking about environments that is work, the energy sensitivity um, is going to be elevated and even present. So if a person that is not of the majority and comes into that space and is particularly sensitive to um, the unknown, the unseen, the unconscious vibrations
Right.
from the majority folks, it is not going to be a space where one would want to be vulnerable, where
Right.
one would want to open up, where one would want to share, or one might even not feel included.
Right.
And there's all manners of energy that we've all
Yeah.
experienced it. And so we can speak from that point of view and of experience. And there are some folks who and we know this is just life, who are not as strong as Yolanda and Ifetayo and some others that will that can go into an understanding and a compassion and
Right.
continue to grow. Some people are like, I'm not doing it. I'm going back to the people who look like me. I can be comfortable in that space. I can be vulnerable in that space. I can be free and open in that space where I cannot be in another space.
Yes.
So this is what you're sharing about. We've all experienced it. Um, Even a vibration of going into a space where the dominant feeling is that um, I don't recognize you. I don't recognize who you are or where you've been or what you've bought because we have dominated this field for X number of years. So I am the dominant. Even coming to that kind of energy um, has, has brought other folks into, then I don't have to. There
Right.
are groups that look like me. There are spaces that look like me. I'm just staying there because that's where I feel comfortable and welcome.
Yeah,
Um,
and the thing that's so interesting about it, and I think where and why I'm glad we're having this conversation is because a lot of people don't realize that sometimes it's unintentional the way that they may make someone feel shut down in a space so like
yes,
for example, you could go to this happened to me not in a Reiki space. It
yes,
just happened to be a different modality. But I was the only person of color there, the only black woman there.
right.
And everyone was nice
Yes,
and everyone was welcoming. So it wasn't
yes,
a question of people being rude to me or feeling any kind of, like overt, you're not welcome here type of
yes,
thing. But I forget where the conversation, something was going on in the world at the time. So the conversation came up around something that kind of, like we might tiptoe around what's going on in the world.
yeah,
And when your story is different than what the majority is, because obviously we have different lenses and experiences
mhm,
in this country. That's just true. But instead of being open and curious, where people be like, oh, well, tell us, help us understand your point of view.
yes,
Instead, they're like, no, 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 we don't talk. No, because we all love and we all this and
yes.
we all. So you will be shut down in the lens of loves. You know what I mean?
I do.
And
Yes,
then I don't think people realize that that is a way of making people feel muted, unheard, unseen,
yes,
all of these things. And so again, even unintentionally,
yes,
no matter how loving you may think you may be, we can sometimes still make, people can be made to feel that I really am not invited to be 100% vulnerable and share and be held in this space. And so that's why a lot of these spaces are so important. And even this conversation, I think, is so important, Mother
Yeah.
Ifetayo. But I just wanted to, I'm glad we got to bring it up because a lot of people
Yes.
see it, they don't understand the reasoning.
Exactly. And that's, I mean, there have been many questions to me because I've always taught um, a very diverse group of students.
Right.
My students are so diverse. And I've always been that teacher.
Hmm.
I've just always been that teacher. Um, and, and, and it's my spirit. It's the way I am.
Yeah.
And I also, one of the points that you brought up that I do want to speak about and address is the storytelling and okay, so back to this book and to me the import of this book and other places. And I know, Yolanda, when you open your sessions for interview, you come from that space of curiosity,
Yes.
and which is to me a great support of oneness, the curiosity piece.
Right.
Because when we come into a space where I'm not curious about you, I know how you are and who you are because I'm about oneness. Well, it's not, there's something missing
Right.
because you really don't know who I am or about me. And when you come to a place and say, I am one with compassion. I come with compassion. If you don't know the story of the individual, how do you really come with compassion?
Yes.
This is just like bulk mail is what comes to my mind. It's like bulk mail. Everything is in this one big envelope. I mean, one big bag. And you say, I'm compassionate to all these envelopes in here. And that's not possible
Mhm.
from my perspective.
Right.
And I grew through the age of I only believe there's one race. I only believe there's one, there's no difference. There's no difference between us all. And I understand that way of being in that way. And I'm also going to say there is a limitation. That is a limited way because it is a denial of there is a garden, as far as I'm concerned. There are dandelions in the garden
Hmm.
and there are roses in the garden. And we can say there's one garden, and I love my garden, and I love all the flower, all the things. But I don't really want these weeds. I don't want these dandelions are really not the same. They don't have the same value as these roses. Okay, um, but I have not inquired about the dandelion and the beautiful properties that this dandelion brings. The dandelion has their own specific properties of healing, and they have had experiences of being misaligned. There's
Yeah.
the whole thing. So to me, this is an analogy of how the human family exists in in number one, as you earlier we had the conversation of being embodied, coming into my body so that I can feel and be aware of what's happening in me and what's also happening in energy outside of myself.
Right.
So if I'm in this space of we are all one, and you know, let's not let's not acknowledge that there have been different experiences and that I can have compassion for the experiences that you have come through that I didn't have to come through.
Right.
To me, that is a growing of the truth of love. That is the growing of the truth of capacity to be that be in diverse cultures and groups. And this is again, we're coming into that time where um, the transparency, integrity, the breaking down of shame about either being either way. It's not about shame, it's about a healing through our shame. Oh, I was like that. You don't have to be, none of us have to be shameful about any of it.
Right.
It's, we just want to hold the intention of honoring everyone in the garden and honoring in a real way, and not just make a blanket, you know, you should just not deal with that, not feel that, overcome that, and and we know because we've been invited for our own individual growing, that yes, we do want to grow through all of the painful memories, but it is a moving through and a growing through
Right.
that has to be acknowledged first to as one of my teachers way back when said, the healing is in the feeling. The healing is in the feeling.
Yeah.
So, we can skip the feeling and not want to feel the reality of others, but it's a limiting of our own healing and of our capacity to be in loving relationships.
Oh, so beautifully said. And there you go again with that gorgeous smile. I mean, it's
It's
like
like,
that's like your punctuation is that smile.
yeah,
But you said that so beautifully. I mean, really, really, truly. And
thank you.
I think I'm just thankful that we just had this conversation, but the perspective you gave, I think, makes it so beautifully clear. And interestingly, it points right back to that piece of compassion. It's not, compassion isn't about pretending things don't exist. It's
Right.
about embracing and being able to hold and look at and sit with what's true, including all of our stories, and
Yeah,
loving each other anyway. And
absolutely.
starting to, and it's funny because I said this so many times with our world, we would be so much better if we actually listened to each other instead
Yes,
of it being this thing of trying to mute each other or comparing like mine is worse or mine is better. Just
yes,
listen to each other.
yes,
And that's where we're going to recognize not just the compassion, but also the sameness, and
yes,
also being
yes,
okay and curious about our difference, like all of this.
yes,
So it loops all back around to the book. And I have to say, I hope that this book really does highlight the beauty of the diversity that exists within this incredible community of Reiki,
yeah,
and that people can read everyone's stories and be just amazed by,
yes,
again, what makes us the same, where we have
yes.
differences, and just feeling that essence of the compassion that all this work keeps pointing to, but it's also pointing to truth. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yes.
Truth is a beautiful virtue.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Beautiful virtue. Yeah.
So I can't thank you enough again for the book first, for taking the reign with this and saying, you know what, I'm going to call people forward and share these stories, give voice to this. Hopefully, it will be inspirational. Hopefully, it'll be a teacher. It'll be a lot of beautiful things for our community. But also, I have to thank you again for taking the time to share this wisdom that you've acquired over the years with us in these last 3 hours. I mean, it has been, I could sit with you all day. You
Oh,
already
we
know.
could we? Absolutely
Yes,
could.
I love your storytelling, and just all that you've shared with us has been unbelievable. So I thank you with my entire heart for
Thank you.
saying
Thank
yes.
you. Thank you, Yolanda. And thank you with my entire heart for the invitation. I mean, you didn't have to think of me and invite me into this space of conversation. I love just sitting with someone who we have a heart connection with and
Yeah.
having a conversation in a truthful conversation
Right.
and soulful conversation. And I did want to add one thing. The name of the book is Reiki Hearts and Souls,
Ooh.
Many Stories, One Bright Light.
Wow.
So Reiki Heart and Souls, many stories, one bright light, which is
That
what I
is a
believe.
beautiful title.
Yeah.
Beautiful title. And so we actually, of course, I have to ask you to come back once it's time for the
Okay.
book to launch and
Yes, yes,
so that we can really celebrate this.
yes,
Um, yeah, and
absolutely.
I just want to point out to everyone, Mother Ifetayo clearly wanted to be here with us, or she would have joyfully said no. So,
I said absolutely. You got it now. I have a choice. I really do, and I exercise that power
yes,
of choice. Yes.
yes, there's just so much we learned from you in this time. And again, I thank you so much, but I know that you'll be back and we'll get to learn some more for you from
Yeah.
you. But thank you for this time. And for all of you, hopefully you enjoyed this time. If you want to know more about Mother Ifetayo and her work, she does have a website. Okay.
Yes,
It
I
is
do.
ifetayowhite.co
Right.
.co, and I will put the link down in the show description. I believe on Instagram you're also White Ifetayo.
I think yeah, that's how it shows up on Instagram. Yeah.
Yes, I will put the link to connect with you on
Okay.
Instagram as well. And then, of course, if you want to attend the womb healing event that is taking place, actually, when this airs, it will be tomorrow. If you would
Oh,
like to go to the womb healing event that is taking place tomorrow, be
yeah.
sure to register. The link is down in the show description. And we will see you all very soon. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
my love.
So beautiful. Thank you, Yolanda. This is beyond the beyond. Thank you.
Great. Hello, beautiful alchemists. First and foremost, I have to thank Ifetayo White again for joining us for this extended conversation here on Reiki Radio. Very thankful again for each person who said yes, and we know her yes was genuine. For everyone who said yes to spending this time to go a little deeper with us to help us all in our journeys and our practices. So, again, if you would like to join her for her womb healing event online tomorrow, the link to register is down in the show description. If you want to know more about her doula work, her Reiki classes, all of the other beautiful offerings that she has, visit her website, ifetayowhite.co. That's .co, and the link for her website is down in the show description as well. It has been a wonderful week with Mother Ifetayo. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, send her an email, let her know. If you enjoy the podcast and the series that we're doing, please take just a moment to leave a 5-star review wherever you are listening to Reiki Radio because it helps the community grow, but it also helps other practitioners to find us, to find their way to their community as well. So thank you all for being here. I will see you very soon. Remember to always journey in love.